a pregnant woman who experienced the stillbirth, okay, while being incarcerated. And due to negligence, according to the report, um, the unthinkable happened. What about full math? For 6 days, a black woman pleaded corrections officers in New York jail, in a New York jail, that her water broke. She pleaded. They ignored her for 6 days. For 6 days. And that negligence led to a tragic story, the baby's death. You're looking at 35-year-old Cheree Byrd. Miss Byrd, who has been in jail since 2022 for petty larceny, was in labor. Water broke 6 days. She pleaded with corrections officers from an upstate New York jail cell where her water broke and she was going into labor. She told them she needed to be transported to the hospital to give birth to her premature baby. But the officers chose not to believe the 35-year-old black woman who had been arrested for misdemeanor death, dismissing her complaints while calling her a liar, giving her some Tylenol and a tampon instead of transporting her to the hospital. "My baby's coming out," she said. Byrd repeatedly yelled this to the jail staff, who continued to ignore her. Other inmates also called for help because those other incarcerated individuals, they have a heart. They can see the humanity in others because they have not lost humanity themselves. They tried to help, but to no avail. Miss Byrd ended up giving birth to a baby girl named Ayana Byrd inside of her cell after damn near a whole week of labor. Then they transported her to the hospital, and her baby was pronounced dead an hour later. Last month, Miss Byrd was awarded a $100,000 settlement after a state investigation determined correction officers, nurses, and the doctor, which were all responsible. This was named one of the worst jails in New York State by the State Commission of Correction. Uh, they even said this was simple negligence and extreme negligence. But it's not new at that institution. There's more. According to the report from the commission, this is one of their own. The Medical Review Board has found that medical care and treatment of Ms. Byrd during her incarceration was both deficient and negligent and may have led to her child's death. The board has found that Byrd was not properly assessed nor timely transferred to a hospital over the course of 6 days, during which she made multiple reports of being in labor. The board opines that had Ms. Byrd been provided with proper medical care, the baby's premature birth and death could have been prevented. They killed this child, according to the commission report. The lawsuit filed by Byrd accused the officers, nurses, and the doctor of several violations, including denial of basic human needs, deprivation of rights, wrongful death, medical malpractice, negligence, as well as violating the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. I'm going to give you some details on the incarceration because it's important to understand the context of this. These officers are looking at a woman in labor. She's innocent. She's an innocent human being. Um, she's in for misdemeanor, petty larceny. Byrd, who was diagnosed with mental illness at the age of 12, was jailed on July 1st, 2022, on a warrant for misdemeanor larceny that usually stems from shoplifting. Okay, that's typically the charge if you steal something. And for many states, the price is under $250. It's a misdemeanor. But she was unable to afford the $5,000 bond. And so she remained incarcerated for more than a month until she gave birth to her daughter on August 2nd, 2022. Why was she in jail? She was in jail because she didn't have $5,000. She was in jail because her socioeconomic reality, which is a policy issue and not a personal issue, didn't have the kind of influence that perhaps some of those corrections officers may have had, or the medical doctor, or the nurses. She's in jail because she doesn't have 5 stacks to give the government. Now, granted, she's given the government way more than that over the course of her lifetime. It's called taxes. But she didn't have 5,000. So because of that, and because of the way our criminal justice system works, she has to sit in jail for a misdemeanor while being pregnant. And then she's tortured as her child is being neglected medically and died. 5,000. Quote, the board questions whether the repeated dismissing of Byrd's complaints by the medical staff was due to what? Racism. They don't say racism, they say implicit bias. Due to implicit bias of a person with serious and persistent mental illness, whereby attributing her reports to being in labor as a behavior. It's because she's Black, she's a woman, she has a mental health issue. It's all 3. It's all of them. Everybody ignored her? Everybody. Every cop, every officer ignored her. You got to think about how many shift changes. You got 3 shift changes a day. You have 6, almost 7 days. You have multiple teams, including a nursing team. You have a medical doctor who's the director of the medical provider who had to make the call to ignore her. You have multiple nurses, multiple medical providers. All of them were on the same page. All right, jail staff downplayed the severity of the situation because of her mental health. One detention officer told the women, quote, that Ms. Byrd is crazy. She's always complaining. Nothing wrong with her. Another detention officer rejected one of the woman's urgent requests to help Ms. Byrd and said that he would only call an ambulance once he saw a baby. Well, that's exactly what they did. Sharon, I'm gonna let you take this one. It's a damn shame.
Yeah, it is. The set of facts that you've laid out are more than disturbing. And I'm sure malpractice encompasses a lot of things, the legal definition of it, but I don't see malpractice here. I see murder. I actually see willful misconduct and murder here. They didn't just, assess her and get it wrong, a bad doctor or a bad nurse, somebody who's not good at their job. That's not what happened here. They ignored her. And her mental state has nothing to do with the baby that was emerging from her womb. There's nothing to do with it. I can appreciate that one of the few times we're getting some strong language and, you read the assessment here, but again, use racism, not bias. Let's talk about what it is. Racism against people of a certain color, people of a certain mental capacity, all of that. Okay, it's not okay. But I think this is criminal and disgusting. And this was a deadly prediction. By behaving the way they behaved, you can predict one's death. That's how I heard it and can't unhear it. And now a
Yep.
child, Ayana, will never get the opportunity because of sickos who acted in concert. Okay, there wasn't one person who was jumping up and down like you or I would have on the job and said, I'm not participating in this. I'm
Right.
getting help. Not one person. What do you need for a conspiracy here to kill a child and gravely perhaps injure a mother?
Yeah. It's completely unbelievable. And all being done while accepting taxpayer money
Yeah,
to serve and protect. We'll bring up this as they come.